Welcome to the Promises to Keep YouTube Read Along. Today we're focusing on pages 14 and 15 that look like this in your book. First, we're going to read the main text, and then we'll use these awesome text features that go around the text and look at the photographs and read the captions. You should have page 14 in front of you right now. While my father fought relatively small battles against racism in Pasadena, African American leaders across the country took the struggle to a new level. They waged battles in courts, in newspapers, and at street demonstrations. They supported educational and economic equity. Black leaders and activists such as Ida B. Wells, Booker T. Washington, and W.E.B. Du Bois took different positions and offered different solutions to the problems of racial equality. By the 1920s, there were visible signs of hope and progress. Black-owned and operated newspapers like the Chicago Defender, the Pittsburgh Courier, Boston's The Guardian, Ebony Magazine, formerly known as the Negro Digest, the NAACP's monthly magazine, The Crisis, and the Associated Negro Press, sprang up to tell the story of racial progress and encourage an anti-segregation resistance movement. There was also a small but growing professional class of African Americans who taught school, worked in hospitals as nurses and doctors, practiced law, and owned businesses. The Harlem Renaissance, named after New York City's vibrant black neighborhood Harlem, brought forth great African American writers, artists, and musicians. Artists like Jacob Lawrence, writers like Langston Hughes, Claude McKay, Count T. Cullen, and Zora Neale Hurston. Jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington. Performers like singer-actor-activist Paul Robeson and dancer Bill Bojangles Robinson all rose to new heights of fame and popularity through the Harlem Renaissance. And so, boys and girls, now let's take a look at the text features. We'll start on the left-hand side. Okay? We're going to look at this photograph. It says, Mississippi-born journalist Ida B. Wells, 1862 to 1931, used the media to expose the violence African Americans were often subjected to in the 1890s and early 20th century. Wells researched and documented the shocking number of lynchings of black people, including 3 businessmen friends in Memphis, Tennessee. Despite threats on her own life, Wells continued her anti-lynching crusade through organizing, lecturing, and writing. Underneath, we have another photograph. It says, scholar and writer William Edward Burghardt Du Bois, who's often known as W.E.B. Du Bois, 1868 to 1963, believed African Americans should be educated and activists. Du Bois was one of the founders of the Niagara Movement, the nation's first biracial civil rights organization, which later became the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP. Next we have self-made millionaire Madame C. J. Walker, 1867 to 1919, was an entrepreneur who amassed a fortune through her cosmetics business. That's makeup. Walker was an important supporter of the Harlem Renaissance. In the middle, we have Booker T. Washington. And then it says a C, which means circa. So around 1856 was when he was born, and he died in 1915. A former slave, became a leading educator, author, and spokesperson for African Americans. He headed the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, an all-black college where students learned vocational skills. Washington believed this type of education would bring black people economic freedom, which would eventually lead to greater freedoms overall. On this side of the page, we have the legendary band leader, Duke Ellington. It looks like he lived from around 1899 to 1974, who took his famous jazz swing orchestra all around the world. We're going to keep going around this way to Zora Neale Hurston. Circa 1891 to 1960, was an anthropologist and novelist, best known for her book Their Eyes Were Watching God from 1937. Above her, we have poet, playwright, essayist, novelist, all-around writer, Langston Hughes, who lived from 1902 to 1967. Captured the heart and voice of the African American experience in his work. And lastly, boys and girls, in the top right-hand corner on page 15, we have Paul Robeson, who lived from around 1898 to 1976, an extraordinary singer, stage, and film actor, stunned audiences with his powerful performances in the film Showboat, 1936, and in stage productions of Othello, 1930 and 1943. Robeson was later ostracized for his social activism. And that, boys and girls, is the information on pages 14 and 15 of Promises to Keep. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in class.